Alright, so in this video assessment for Physics B, we are going to be looking at what has been currently labeled as Learning Target 127. So for 127, we are going to be looking at something that's known as a circuit. A circuit being a very simple electronic conductive device, such as this. And then we would have in here a battery supply and a simple capacitor. So when we have very simple things such as this, it's very easy to identify, though this is all just one very fast continuous thing. Now, the things that we need to determine in learning a target 127 is how to differentiate a parallel circuit or a circuit in a series. And here, let me show you an example. So let's say we have something that's a bit more complicated. So here's our battery, and we'll go down, and then we'll say there's a resistor here, and there's a resistor there. So now we're looking at a very different type of battery situation. Here we have two resistors that are put in a parallel with one another. Now, I like to think of parallel as they'll never meet if you were to draw them on forever. So if we were to draw these on here forever, you see that after forever they would never meet. They would still be the exact same amount apart. And so that's what I like to say when I like to say they're parallel, is that they're never going to meet like that. But now let's change this problem. So here we have our battery source again. And this time we'll put a resistor here. And then another resistor here. Now in this scenario we have two resistors, but these resistors, they aren't parallel. No, they're in a series with one another. Think of a series as a television series, right? Where one episode comes after another episode. This is really just a simple way of showing how two things can be in a series together. So whenever you think about it, think of it as a series, as in one is going to come after the other. Much as an episode of your favorite television show is going to come on after an episode of the previous episodes of that television show. Now, this is a very simple way to think about it, and this is really going to help us when we start doing the calculations on it, because if they're in a series, resistors react much more differently than if they're in a parallel. And it's very helpful to be able to identify the differences when we have much more complex circuits as something like this. We'll start off very simple with our battery. And then let's immediately go into a resistor. And here we're just going to do one resistor. Then meet back up here. Move it there for the audience's purposes. You see, now this is a much more complex circuit system. Here, not only do we have two resistors that are in a series with one another, but this series is within parallel to another structure. And on top of that, these three are all in a parallel with one another, but this triple parallel is in series with the prior parallel. This is where you can see the confounding nature of these circuits and why it's going to be very important in future learning assessment and for future learning targets to be able to differentiate the parallels from the series. Remember, parallel, they're never going to meet. Series? I mean, they're coming one right after the other. Hopefully that'll learn you learning target 127.